and we have Beis Stalin. The sages did not require bakers to separate anything except the quantity of truma, maisa, and challah. Shopkeepers may not sell demai, and all who supply large quantities may sell demai. Who are those that are selling large quantities? Wholesalers and grain dealers. And Reb Meir says, if that which is usually measured in large quantities was measured in small quantities, the small quantity comes under the rule of large quantity. If that which is measured under small quantities is measured in large quantities, the large quantities come under the rule of small quantity. What is a large quantity? For dry, 3 cobs, and for moist, 1 dinner. Rabbi Yossi says baskets of figs, baskets of grapes, or hampers of vegetables, as long as they are sold in lots, are exempt. And one may give the poor demai to eat, and the aksana demai to eat. Rabbi Gamil used to give his workmen demai to eat. Wardens of charity, Beis Shammai say they should give the tithe to those who do not tithe, and the untithe to those who tithe. Thus, everyone will eat tithe food. But the Kakaman say they collect without question and distribute without question, and whoever wishes to tithe, tithes.
כן.
Okay.
Mishna Beis, הרוצה לחזום עלי ירק להקל ממסו. So he's carrying a bunch of vegetables from the field, but he's physically carrying them, and he's finding this is just too much. It's not worth my effort to carry all of these vegetables. So he decides he's gonna take some of the produce and just toss it away because he's not going to be able to get into town carrying all of this heavy stuff. So problem now is that he's already bundled them, which is considered the Gemar Malacha, which means that they've reached the stage of Trumas and Masros. He's not allowed to throw them on the side of the road until he has taken Trumas and Masros from them, because some Amaretz might come past, pick it up, and say, "Oh, yay, let me eat this." Okay, so he's got to make sure that he doesn't put a mikshol in front of them. Halokech yarak min shuk. Now, what happens if somebody is buying in the shuk and he sees, oh, that's a nice bundle, and he picks it up and he's ready to buy it, and he says, oh wait, there's another better one over there. Now he wants to put it down again. No, he can't do that. Lo yachzir ad sheyaser. This is where the storekeeper is an amaretz. Okay, so the produce he's buying is demai, and now he's holding this vegetable, and what's he going to have to do? He's going to have to separate trumas and masros. Well, truma gedola we can assume not, but he has to take out trumas maser and maser sheni before he's allowed to put it back on the table. She'enu mechusar ela minyan, because having picked it up, that was the kinyan. Now he just has to pay the money to the storekeeper. That, by the way, is true in the times of the Mishnah. However, nowadays, the way that commerce works, the generally accepted practice is that even if you pick things up inside the supermarket, they're not yours until you get past the checkout counter. So if, for example, you want to put things back, you're allowed to put them back. You picked up the tomatoes and decide, actually, and your wife calls you up and says, hey, we've already got tomatoes, I don't need more. Oh, okay, so you put them down, and the storekeeper doesn't say, hey, you picked that up, you have to pay for it now. Right, so it's things work differently nowadays. So the halacha would also be different over here, because the whole point is that he's made a kin and it's now his, and he is responsible for trumas and masters if he wants to return it. Okay. Haya omed v'lokeach. However, if he's just standing around and pushing his way through the produce to try and find something good, and he set aside one piece which he thinks is the best, and he sees something else that's better, that he can do, because he hasn't done a mashiach yet, he hasn't done a hagbah yet, so he's not it's not his, and he's still allowed to exchange it. Okay, Mishnah Gimel, hamotze peros baderech unatalan ochlan. So somebody is going along the road and he finds perfectly good vegetables discarded on the side of the road, fell off the back of a truck, whatever. And now, so he's picked them up because he wants to. He said, "Hey, Bill, this will be great to eat." V'nimlach latznia, and he changed his mind and said, "Look, all the stuff that was fallen off the side of the road or whatever, and I'm gonna put it back down again. Um, Either he's not interested or he's putting back there for safekeeping so that he can come back and find it another time. Either way, lo yatznia ad she'aser. He's not allowed to put it back until he takes trumas maser and maser sheni. Okay. ואם מתחילה נטלן בשביל שלא יאבדו, פטור. However, if he just said, "Oh, what a shame! All this perfectly good food is sitting on the road. People are going to walk over it and mess it up. We just push it over to the side, pick it up and put it over to the side. I don't want it personally, but I just, chaval, somebody else might want to come afterwards and pick it up." Um, so he's not taking it for himself, which means that he never had asked for a kinyan. Once he never had to ask for a kinyan, he doesn't have to take Thomas and Masters from it. Kol davar she'ein adam rashai lemochro demai. Anything that a person is not allowed to sell as demai, lo yishlach lechavero demai. He is not allowed to send as a gift as demai either. Okay, so halachas of selling or of gifting are the same as far as demai is concerned. Now, Rabbi Yossi has an interesting opinion. He says he's matir bevadai ubilvad yodienu. So if he has produce that he knows that he picked it from his garden himself and he hasn't taken Trumas and Masras, says Rabbi Yossi, he's allowed to give that to his friend and say, "Listen, this is my gift to you, but you just have to take Trumas and Masras from it." And he says that's okay. Why is that okay, but not with Demai? Because with Vadai, people are always choshesh from Tevel. Okay, when you know that it's tevel, people will take it seriously and they're not going to eat anything by mistake. But if you say to him, "Oh, this produce is demai," you say, demai, it's just drabanan," and they're a little mazalzel in the mitzvah. But when it comes to vadai, that they'll be stringent about. Nonetheless, the halacha is not like Rabbi Yossi, and you're also not allowed to send tevel to your friend. Okay. Uh, Dalet, hamolech chitim letochen kuti or letochen amaret. So he's got wheat, and there's a grinder who rents out his mill that has a service. You give me your wheat, and I'll give you back flour. Now, if he's a kuti or an amaret, that's actually okay. The produce it can be assumed to be the same produce that he gave him, because even the kutim are they're not going to actually steal because the kutim are not the rule of the kutim is that they don't keep Torah Shebal Peh. Okay, but Torah Shebichtav they're very stringent about. Right? They take that very seriously. They sometimes even frummer than regular Jews. Okay, and when it comes to gezel is beferish in the Torah. You can't steal somebody else's produce. You can't swap it for something else. That's gezel. So you can trust the kuti that he's not swapping your produce for anything else. And when he grinds it, he's going to give you back the same from the same produce that you gave him. And for sure, the Amaretz. So, and you don't have to worry not about Mashras, not about Shvius. You can assume that the same produce came back to you. The Tochen Nochri Demai. If you give it to a non-Jewish grinder, now whatever you get back, he's not necessarily as makpid on halachas of stealing and swapping and whatever. So he's going to give you, obviously, he's going to give you back wheat, but it might not be the wheat you gave him. Which means what's the worst that can happen with your wheat that you get back is that it could be untithed. So if you didn't if you even if you tithed your wheat before you gave it to him, it's going to come back and gonna have to take tithes again. Hamafkid perosav etzel hakusi or etzel amaretz. And similarly, if you just leave your sack of grain by him for safekeeping, it stays in its same chazaka. I'm not sure why this would be different from the grinder, but it stays the same for whatever they were before. They stay the same. Etzal anochri kaperasav. However, if you deposit your sack by a non-Jew, um, then they take on whatever din is with his payros. Now, all of this Mishnah is according to Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Meir himself, Rabbi Meir, remember, is the guy who doesn't hold by heter mechira, okay?
Mhm.
Which means that the land maintains its kedusha even if it's sold to a non-Jew. Which means that anything that grows on the on the non-Jew's watch is nonetheless chayav in trumas and masros once a Jew gets hold of it. Okay, so um, so what we're suspecting is that the non-Jew is going to swap his produce for your produce, which means that it is assumed to require trumas and masros again. Okay, or it might be that they require Trumas and Masters again. So it's Kilu, whatever you got back, you have to assume is like his Peiros. Rabbi Shimon Omer Demai. And Rabbi Shimon says that when you've got a suffix if he swapped wait, hang on, what's the difference between the two? Um and he put every master. I just gotta close my door because it keeps slamming. זה something אני מחליף ומפריש שהישראל תשומה כמשהו, אבל אינו חייב ליתן עשר תשומה לכהן. Okay, so if you assume it to be like that the non-Jew, I think the difference between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Shimon over here is that he is chayav to take trumas and masrostra from this produce. Um, and Rabbi Shimon says no, it's called demai because now Rabbi Shimon holds that if it's a non-Jew's produce, first of all, that's if it is the actual non-Jew's produce, then it's patur from trumas and masros altogether. That's the difference over here. So why would you need to take anything from it at all? Because he might have swapped it with some other Jew who might have been an Amaretz, in which case your produce is now demai, it's not vadai. So you don't have to take, first of all, you don't have to take Truma Gedola from it. Because all Jews take Truma Gedola, right? There was never a Gezerah on that.
Right, right.
Okay, so that's the difference, is that Rabbi Shimon says that if you left your produce by the non-Jew, it comes out as demai, not as suffix tevel. Okay,
Good.
let's go back to
Zion Dalit,
line Daled.
which is Olalet, which whatever has neither kataf or nataf, if it has kataf or nataf or the owner. If there is doubt, to the poor. Olalet is in the joint. If it is nipped off with the cluster, then it belongs to the owner. If not, then it belongs to the poor. The single berry, Rabbi Yehuda says cluster, but the sages say olalet. The person who thins the vines, just as he thins his, he may thin that of the poor. So Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir says his own he may, but that of the poor he may not. A vineyard in its fourth year, Beis Shammai says it has no chumash and it has no removal. And Beis Hillel says it has. Beis Shammai says it has parrot and it has olalet, but the poor redeem for themselves. And Beis Hillel says all of it is for the vow. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
Reb Eliezer says, if one makes of his tefillah a fixed task, his tefillah is not a supplication. The Yeshua says, anyone journeying from a place of danger may recite a short petition. Save, O Lord, your people Israel when they are straying to transgression. Let their knees be before you. Blessed are you, O Lord, who hearkens unto prayer. Reb Eliezer ben Azariah says, the Musaf tefillah is recited only with the city congregation. The Chachamim say with or without the city congregation. And Rabbi Yehuda says in his name, whenever there is a local congregation, the individual playing alone is exempt from reciting the Musaf tefillah. And one should only stand up to recite the tefillah in a reverent mood. The pious men of earlier times would first wait an hour.
Wait a second.
To skip something?
You went backwards.
Oh, I did it again. Okay. All right. Same thing all the time I do this. Let me go back to where we started. It was Dalad.
Daled you finished.
That's it. Okay, all right, so now here we are.
Dalet Hey, yeah.
Well, then I was in the right place.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. I beg your pardon.
All right.
You were in the right place. I'm
I
sorry.
skipped one. I skipped
I
one.
apologize. You skipped one. You
I
possibly
skipped
skipped
one.
one, and then I was looking for your chef when you were sitting on. You did the one we were sitting on the boat.
Um, no, I did the one before that I have to do now. If someone was riding on a donkey, he must dismount. If he is unable to, he must turn his face. If he is unable to turn his face, he must shall direct his heart to the Holy of Holies. If someone was sitting in a boat or a wagon on a raft, he shall direct his heart towards the Holy of Holies. Okay,
Hey,
you
that's
just
it.
went too far. That's okay. And mikvos. Okay, your base. A mattress or cushion of leather require that the water should enter into them. But a round pillow, a ball, a stuffed form, an amulet, or a tefillah do not require that the water should enter into them. This is the general rule. Anything whose contents are not usually put in or taken out may be immersed and open. The following kinds knots do not require the water should enter into them. Knots of a poor man's clothes or fringes, of a sandal, of a tefillah of the head, if it is tight, if a tefillah of the arm, if it does not move up and down, of a water skin lug or a pouch lug. The following knots do require that the water should enter them: the knot of the shoulder of an undershirt, the knot of the edge of a sheet, and also one also has to spread out this knot of the tefillah of the head if it is not tight, of the tefillah if the arm if it moves up and down, of sandal straps. Clothes that are immersed when washed need only be immersed until they produce bubbles. But if they are immersed when they dry, they must stay immersed until they produce bubbles and cease bubbling. All handles of utensils that are too long and will be
No,
cut
no, no.
short need.
That's it. That's it. We're done there.
Oh, I'm doing a good job today. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Kalim Zain Aleph.
The stove tops of base oh man, the stove bases of householders which collapsed if it was less than 3 hand breadths is tame, since one heats it from the below and the pop up will crack the pop up will crack above will cook. But if it was more than that, it is tahor. If one inserted a stone or a pebble in it is tahor. If he plastered it with clay, he will be susceptible to tuma from then on. And this was the response of Rebbe Yehuda regarding the oven that was placed over the mouth of a pit or the mouth of a cistern. A shelf that has a receptacle for pots is tahor, as a stove, but tamoi as a utensil with a receptacle. Regarding its sides, that which touches the walls is not tamei as a stove, and regarding its wide side, Reb Meir moves a tahor, and Reb Yehuda moves a tamei. The same applies if one turns over a basket and builds a stove on it. A stove that's split along its length is tahor, but if it's split along its width, it is tamei. A kupak that's split either along its length or along its width is tahu. The courtyard of a stove, when it is 3 finger breadths high, it contracts tuma, the via contract, and via airspace. But if it is less than this, then it contracts tuma via contact, but does not contract tuma via airspace. How is it measured? Rabbi Yismael says one places the spit from top to bottom of the and the area opposite the spit contracts tuma via airspace. Elias ben Yaakov says if the stove became tummy, the courtyard becomes tummy. But if the courtyard became tummy, the stove does not become tummy.
Yeah.
If the courtyard, that was it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, chet. If one sold wine to oil to another and it appreciated or depreciated, if it happened before the measure was filled, it belongs to the seller. Once the measure was filled, it belongs to the seller. Once the measure was filled, it belongs to the buyer. If there was a middleman between them and the barrel broke, it broke for the middleman. He is obligated to let 3 drops drip out for him, and if he turned it over and drained it, it belongs to the seller. A storekeeper, however, is not obligated to let 3 drops drip out. Rabbi Yehuda says only on the eve of Shabbos at dusk is he exempt. If someone sent his son to a storekeeper with a punyan in his hand, and he measured out for him an issa's worth of oil and gave him an issa, if he broke the jar and lost the issa, the storekeeper is liable. Rabbi Yehuda exempts him, wipes his weights. Is that right? Yeah. Yehuda exempt him. I made a mistake. Did I skip something? 2 pages.
Um,
Rabbi Yehuda exempts him because he sent it for that purpose. The sages agree with Rabbi Yehuda that when the jar is in the hand of the child and the
Hmm.
storekeeper measures into it, the storekeeper is exempt.
Yeah.
The wholesaler must clean his measures once in 30 days and a householder once in 12 months. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says the reverse is true. A storekeeper must clean his measures twice a week, wipes his weights once a week, and cleans the scales for every weighing. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said
No,
both.
that's it. We're done. We're done.
We're really doing great today. I'm really
It's okay.
Yoma. Okay. Base hay. The daily sacrifice was offered with 9 kohanim, or with 10, or with 11, or with 12, no less and no more. How so? The sacrifice itself with 9. On Sukkot, one held a flask of water in his hand, thus we have 10. In the afternoon with 11, the sacrifice itself with 9, plus 2 who held 2 logs in their hands. On the Sabbath with 11, the sacrifice itself with 9, plus 2 who held the 2 spoons of frankincense on the unleavened bread in their hands on the Sabbath during Sukkot, so one held a flask of water in his hand. A ram was offered with 11, the meat with 5, the intestines with fine flour, and the wine with 2. An ox was offered with 24, the head and the hind leg, the head with 1 and the hind leg with 2. The tail with the hind leg, the tail with 2, and the hind leg with 2. The breast and the neck, the breast with 1, the neck with 3. The 2 forelegs with 2. The 2 sides with 2, the intestines with fine flour, and the wine with 3 of each. In which cases do the above apply? For communal sacrifices, but not for personal sacrifices. If he wanted to offer, he may do so. The flaying and dissection of these and of those are the same. Boy, this
Okay.
reminds me of
Done.
when I used to study music, and I used to go where I lived on Long Island. I used to go to New York City, and I studied with this great guy. And he's a master. I mean, he was an Italian guy though. He would always drink his coffee and pour something else in the coffee, some kind. I don't know what if he put with vodka or whatever he put. But that's how he would do. That's what reminds me of. Like I was drinking my coffee today with something in it. And I didn't. I didn't. Have a great Shabbos. I really enjoyed.
Great, Shabbos. See you on Sunday.
Thank you. Bye.